Welcome to Cadre's companion video to the Family Guide for IDEA Early Intervention Due Process Complaints and Hearing Requests for Part B procedures. Parents have important legal rights if they disagree about whether the requirements of Part C of the IDEA are being followed. This video covers the right to file a due process complaint, also called a hearing request, to resolve a disagreement. Please note that this video is intended to explain due process complaints and hearings, but is not intended to replace your procedural safeguards under IDEA or state law. A due process complaint is a written document used to ask for a hearing officer to resolve questions about the identification, evaluation, placement, or the provision of early intervention services, or EIS. A due process complaint can address issues specific to an infant or toddler with a disability and their family. States have the option of adopting either IDEA Part B or IDEA Part C procedures for due process complaints and hearings, and knowing which procedures are operating in your state is important. This video describes the procedures for due process complaints and hearings for states that have adopted Part B procedures under Part C of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA. There are important differences between IDEA Part B and IDEA Part C procedures that affect timelines, time limits, and other requirements, such as whether a resolution meeting is required. To find out the requirements your state follows, contact your state Early Intervention Lead Agency or Office of Special Education Programs, OSEP, funded parent center. If you live in a state that has adopted IDEA Part C procedures, see the IDEA Early Intervention Due Process Complaints and Hearings, Part C Procedures, Family Guide and Companion videos. A due process hearing is the most formal dispute resolution option under the IDEA. It is conducted by a hearing officer who considers the information provided by each side, may ask questions of witnesses, and makes a decision about the dispute. The hearing officer is required to be impartial and knowledgeable about Part C of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. Under Part B procedures, the due process complaint may be filed by a parent, an EIS provider, or the state lead agency. This starts a process that may lead to a formal hearing where a hearing officer decides the outcome. A few examples of when a parent might file a due process complaint include: you disagree with the results of your child's evaluation regarding his or her eligibility for Part C. You think that the Individualized Family Service Plan, or IFSP, developed by your child's IFSP team doesn't meet your child's needs and the needs of your family. You believe the EIS provider is not providing the services included in your child's IFSP. You disagree with the setting in which your child's services are delivered. If your state's system charges for EIS services and you disagree with the fee charged for services or the decision about your ability to pay. When thinking about whether or not to file a due process complaint, there are a number of considerations to make. To begin with, due process is the most formal, least collaborative dispute resolution option. Other dispute resolution options include mediation and written state complaints. Depending upon the situation, each choice has advantages and disadvantages. Also, most due process complaints are resolved without a hearing, often through the use of mediation or another early dispute resolution option. In addition, in a due process hearing, a hearing officer who doesn't know your child and family makes the decision. In mediation, which you may request at any time, the decision is made by you, the EIS provider, lead agency staff, and others who know your child best. It is also important to know the following. The hearing officer is required to include both sides in any conversation about the due process complaint or hearing. Any due process hearing conducted under Part C must be carried out at a time and place that is reasonably convenient to you. The hearing officer's decision is legally binding. Either side can appeal the decision. From the time a due process complaint is filed until it is resolved, your child must continue to receive the appropriate early intervention services in the setting identified in the IFSP that you consented to, unless you and the state lead agency agree otherwise. If your complaint involves an application for initial services under Part C of IDEA, your child must continue to receive services that are not in dispute. State lead agencies must have written procedures for filing a request for a due process hearing. Details on how to file a due process complaint are available from your state lead agency. Before filing, it's important to know that parents are not required to have an attorney to file a due process complaint. Because of the legal nature of due process proceedings, parents may, however, find it helpful to hire an attorney. If you end up going to a due process hearing, the other side will usually have an attorney, and you may want to have one as well. The state lead agency must inform you of any free or low-cost legal and other relevant services. OSIP-funded parent centers may be able to help with attorney referrals, but generally do not offer legal advice. Your state lead agency may have a due process complaint form available, but you do not have to use it. If a form is available, looking at it and seeing what information is requested may help you organize your thoughts before writing a complaint. If no form is available, contact your service coordinator, the lead agency, or OSIP-funded Parent Information Center for assistance. Due process complaints must include the following information: the child's name and the address of residency of the child, the name of the child's EIS provider. In the case of a child who is homeless, available contact information. A description of the nature of the problem of the child relating to the proposed or refused initiation or change, including facts relating to the problem, and a proposed resolution of the problem to the extent known and available to the party at the time. A due process complaint that does not have the required information may be returned or dismissed, which could delay resolution of the issues. You may wonder if there is a time limit for filing a due process complaint. The problems you list in your due process complaint must have occurred no more than 2 years before you file your due process complaint, or from the date you should have known that the issue occurred, unless there is an exception to the time limit. An exception to these timelines may apply if you were prevented from filing the complaint due to a misrepresentation that the problem had been resolved, or if you were not provided information about this process. In some states, the time limit for filing may be less than 2 years, so it is important to file your due process complaint as soon as possible. The parent, EIS provider, or state lead agency filing the due process complaint must send a copy to the other side at the same time it is filed with the state lead agency. For additional information on early intervention due process complaints, a glossary of terms, and other early intervention dispute resolution options, visit www.cadreworks.org/EI-Family Guides. For state-specific information or individual assistance, contact your state lead agency or OSIP-funded parent center. The Center for Parent Information and Resources can also assist. They provide information on a variety of early intervention and special education topics, and a current list of all the parent centers in the nation on their website, parentcenterhub.org. For a current list of Part C state coordinators, visit the Early Childhood Technical Assistance Center, or ECTA website, at ecta-center.org/contact/PTC-COORD.ASP. To review the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, visit sites.ed.gov/IDEA. This concludes the companion video to the IDEA Early Intervention Due Process Complaints and Hearing Requests, Part B, Procedures Family Guide. We encourage you to also view the What to Expect After Filing an Early Intervention Due Process Complaint Part B Procedures video, and check out the many family resources located on Cadre's website, www.cadreworks.org/4-families.